Hello, Healing Overflow with Dr. Toy family. I am so excited to see y'all. Y'all look good. You been doing all right? Wonderful. Well, wait. I heard somebody in the back say struggling a little bit. Well, that's why I'm here. I am here for that very reason. There are some struggle bus type of things going on, and we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about media, the news, social media. We're going to talk about all that, cover it completely, and I'm going to give you some tips, Dr. Toy's tips. So stay listening, stay watching to the end for those tips. But first, I need to say welcome to Healing Overflow with Dr. Toy. If you've never been here, you are family, and I will call you family every time you show up. Pull up a chair, let's talk. If you have questions for Ask a Therapist, you can always submit it in that link. The anonymous link is back, y'all, so click on it. I don't know who you are or where it came from. Go ahead and tell me what your question is. I'm the therapist. I'm going to answer it. And if you want to be known, let me know your email address, and then we'll get you a little prize, a little something, a little coffee gift card or something like that. If your question is answered on the podcast, you know I like doing that because I like my coffee. We're never going to do a podcast on stop drinking coffee. Like, never. I love it. All right, y'all, let's get straight up into it. Okay, listen. This is a social work podcast, University of Pittsburgh School of Social Work. And also we are reaching Pitt students and we are reaching folks in all kind of different countries. Shout out to my South African friends, to my friends in Uganda, my friends in Kenya. Thank y'all for listening. And also shout out to the Pittsburgh family, all of Pennsylvania. And I know that y'all listen from all over the 50 states. I'm so proud to say that. So thank y'all for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for watching. Let's get into it, okay? So I know that, the media, the news, all of that, it can get a little stressful. No, it can get a lot stressful. So I'm going to start from here. What's that? That's your alarm clock. That's your alarm clock. It's going off, and what's the first thing you do? Oh. What is going on in the world? What's happening? Oh, my goodness. You start scrolling through that news as soon as you wake up. As soon as you wake up. Now you're reading about funding cuts, job loss, poverty, homelessness. This causes cancer. I've been drinking and eating that for years. I need to lose weight. I need to gain weight. I need to do these exercises. I need to stop doing these exercises. Okay? Healthcare cuts, high grocery bills, y'all. War. Are we safe? Are we safe in our neighborhood? Are we safe in our country? The news is telling us we are not safe. We're going to all be broke, and we're not going to be able to eat, and we're all going to have cancer-causing behaviors. Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot of stress, y'all. That's a lot of anxiety. And that's exactly what it can be called. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. I'm going to start with this quote from Dr. Robert Bright. He's a Mayo Clinic psychiatrist, and I really, really respected what he said here. He says, respective and even near constant exposure to stressful events, especially those beyond our control, can lead to feelings of hopelessness and depression. I need to ask y'all a question, Healing Overflow family. Are any of you out there feeling hopeless, feeling powerless, feeling anxious, depressed about what you are reading as soon as you wake up on the news? Raise your hand. My hand is up, y'all. I'm Dr. Toy. Does it matter? The stress and the anxiety that comes from rolling over and scrolling through your phone or going about your life and your business and see something pop up on your phone or scrolling on your computer while you're at work and taking a little break and seeing all the news popping up. And it's all bad news coming from every angle. It can be overwhelming, so much so that it's overwhelming our cognitions. It's overwhelming our natural reactions. So remember the podcast where I talked about your default response? Well, I covered the fight, flight, and freeze responses and fawn. I covered that too. But it is our natural reaction. It's part of that autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. But that sympathetic nervous system gets activated when we hear a bunch of bad news. We hear a bunch of distractive news and a bunch of news that is just horror, it's destruction, it's things out of our control. We hear it, and then immediately it goes into our brain because, information comes in through our five senses. If you didn't see that podcast, go back and look at it. I think it was a good one. And it will help you to understand those natural reactions that you have, the automatic reactions that you have, is because your brain thinks that this is potential danger. This is going to harm me. So whether or not it's actually going to harm you, your brain doesn't matter. Your brain said, that doesn't matter to me. I think that my host is in danger, and I'm going to react that way. And remember, the amygdala goes into that alarm, that high alert, and says, well, we need to fight, flight, or freeze. And so our reactions are to protect ourselves. That's why the reactions happen. But sometimes our reactions overshoot, and it's really not anything that is going to affect us. Now, I'm not downplaying and saying that the things in the news aren't going to affect us. Yeah, there's a lot of things in the news that are going to affect us, like funding cuts. And I know with my students, fellowship cuts, just the threat of that, or the threat of your safety in your neighborhood or in your country or your health. Okay, yeah, financial cuts are going to affect us, especially those of us that are not of the 1 percentile. I'm thinking you're not rich out there. If you are, call me on my cell phone, right? And so these things are going to affect us, healthcare, these things affect us. And so we get into this state of hopelessness because we cannot control everything. We certainly can't control what our state or our government or our country, top heads are doing. We can't control that. We can control that through voting, but if we voted for someone and they didn't win, then we are looking at a lot of policies and changes that aren't agreeing with our views or, what we think is best for us, our family, or the community we serve, So as a social worker, I'm looking at the people that I serve, and I know that a lot of changes are affecting them. And so I'm looking at that. There's a lot of changes affecting me personally. And so that sympathetic nervous system kicks in and says, oh, no, you need to protect. Then you're feeling symptoms of anxiety and depression and things like that. Okay? And so it's real. It's real. There are several articles that I found. Y'all know I love to read, especially articles that have to do with social work and psychological things. And I was eating it up, y'all. And I have to share, so I'm going to share some things. I found this article. I love the Calm app. I'm not being endorsed by them, but I will accept an endorsement. The Calm app is wonderful. And so I use the PTSD Coach app and the Calm app and the Nature Sounds app. And these are all for just mindfulness and just feeling grounded in your body and in your space. And so the Calm app, I'm saying Calm, CALM, the Calm app has an article. They do blogs, and it says how to cope with news anxiety and care for your mental health. I say right up the alley. This is exactly what I'm thinking about, and that we absolutely need to make sure that we are, in tune with, especially, as a therapist. I say, okay. What did O say? What am I saying? Okay. So 6 signs you might have news anxiety. Difficulty concentrating on tasks. Basically, your mind is focusing on what is going on in the world out there. What is going on? How is your family going to be affected? How are, funding for school? How is that going to be affected? Just going to the grocery store yesterday, I saw all of these different prices going up and down and up. I mean, drastically going up and down. The price of eggs. Okay, whoa. They were so high. Now I said, oh, they're down at a normal rate. So that's something that, how are you going to feed yourself? How are you going to feed your family? How are you going to finish your degree? Things like that, okay? So difficulty concentrating, that means your mind is so busy thinking about all the things that you have to do and all the things that you may not be able to do because of these changes, these drastic changes, or just feeling unsafe because you're told by the news it's unsafe out there. Life is unsafe. Okay, now what do I do with this grand, overgeneralized thought of the world and people aren't safe? And so now I'm walking around in my downtown area, clutching my purse and looking over my shoulder, hoping no one hurts me. Now, there's a difference of protecting yourself and doing the best you can to do that versus just being hyper aroused and paranoid feeling. I have a lot of my clients always say, I feel paranoid. I'm like, oh, that's your brain working, telling you that you're on high alert. But that high alert feeling feels awful. And so that can stop you from being able to have concentration on your studies, on your friends, on your family, on your relationship, your significant others. Like, you're not even paying attention to me. Your brain's like, I can't. I'm too busy thinking about what's going on in the world. And feeling hopeless, that's number 2, feeling hopelessness or powerlessness, hopelessness about the future, don't even really want to plan because you don't know what's going to happen. And so you're feeling that anxiety, that news anxiety, because the future looks pretty bleak. Isolation from social interaction. And so you don't want to travel. People are asking me, aren't you afraid to travel? You're getting on a plane. You're going to Africa. You're going to South Africa. Where are you going? Why are you doing that? Aren't you afraid you won't be able to get back in the country or you won't be able to get out of the country? And you notice that the things that you usually would do, like going out and hanging out with your friends, going out to different establishments or traveling, that you're not doing because of fear, because of anxiety, because of what you heard on the news. That's called social isolation. And then endless scrolling. Y'all, are you doing this all morning? Oh, what about that? Click on this. And then let me tell you, it's going down the rat hole because you're looking constantly of what the update is and what's going on and what happened and what are they telling you not to do now and what's coming down. Oh, no, now this happened. Oh, no, and your brain is overloading. You can only have but so many oh, no's, this is happening. And so these are some signs of news anxiety where you can't get enough of it. You need to have your feed on. You need to look at your phone and see what's going on. You're reading the news, you're watching it on TikTok, on YouTube, on Facebook. You're looking at it. You're talking about it with colleagues constantly to get updated. You're listening to NPR news or any of those radio news, reading, online. And social media is probably the poorest source of news. So I'm going to get into that in a little bit because it's sensationalized. They are doing things to get you to click and to look at it. There is clickbait. They're like, look at this. And some of the content may not be accurate. And so that's going to be in my tips, y'all. I'm going to share those tips on how to avoid news anxiety. Okay? Stay tuned. Children, I'm going to talk a little bit about children because I have 2. Well, they're not quite children anymore. They are big kids now, but I'm still talking about the news with them. And so children, you'll notice that a child shows changes in behavior, sleeping, eating, worrying. You can hear a child excessively worrying all the time and talking about being hurt and what can they do to make sure that they're not hurt, or is the war coming to them, to their country, to their backyard? Is street violence and the school shootings? I remember my daughter being very afraid because she was hearing on the news and through social media so much about the school shootings. And I remember her sitting in the car while I was dropping her off in front of her school, and she's like, Mom, I'm afraid. People might come in my school and shoot, and we really had to grab her hand and really had to encourage her and talk to her, and she asked for a prayer just to be safe, and just something like that. Just it's kind of heartbreaking as a parent to see your child, worry about things because we are supposed to protect them, and so I 100% stood on business saying, my husband, your dad, and I are going to make sure that you are protected all the time, and don't you worry. But absolutely, we don't have control over all of that. We don't have control over keeping her safe at all times, and so that was, that gets a little scary. Okay, so I want to talk about just some tips about how to talk to your child about the news, and then I'm going to leave you with coping with news anxiety. So let's talk about talking to your child about the news first, okay? Okay, here we go. So Megan Walls, PsyD, talked about on kidshealth.org. It was the parents page, and it's their newsletter. And I really like a lot of things that she said, and I added a lot of my things. Y'all know I'm a child therapist as well. And so I added a lot of my tips too. So let's get into it. So children hear about what's going on in the world through social media, through friends, through adult conversations. Remember my daughter? She's an ear hustler. That means she always got herself in tune to what the grown-ups are saying, and might hear something about, a shooting happened, or that part of town's not safe, and next thing you know, she's afraid. My son, on the other hand, loves to read, and he will always read about what's going on, but he's not always reading from reputable sources. And so he'll say, they're doing this over there. And I say, how do you know that? What's your source, son? And then he would say, TikTok or Wikipedia or whatever, something. And I say, well, you can't absolutely say, that's happening because of that news source. That news source is not reputable, and you have to make sure it's reputable. So that's in my tips, and I'll elaborate a little bit more. But ask your kid what they know about the current event. So start there. If you notice some behavioral changes and they start getting worried and things like that, ask them, what about the current events? Let's talk about, what do you know? Talk their language, talk on their level. If you have a little 6-year-old, you're not gonna use all these big words and tell them all these details they don't need to know. When I did too much and talked too much and said too much, my daughter would say, okay. And I'll say, do you understand? And she'll say, not really, but okay. You want them to fully understand. And so talk their language, listen to what they know first, and don't assume something is scary and upsetting when it really isn't. It might not be to them. So if you're talking to them, what do you know about the school shooting that happened at Sunnyside? And if they're saying, well, I don't really know anything about it, and you say, oh, okay. And if they say, what happened? Then you give them basic ground information and not elaborate or sensationalize like the news is going to do, okay? Another thing, be honest. So tell the truth, share with your child according to their developmental level. And so you're not going to share with them too much information they may not understand. If they ask you questions and you don't know the answer, it's okay to not know the answer and say, I don't really know. And if they say, are you scared too? It's okay for you to say, I am scared about that. And then make a plan on how you're going to help each other to feel safer while, this is going on, or while you have this new knowledge of what happened. Lead by example, parents. If you're over there scrolling your life away and watching way too much CNN or Fox or listening to NPR, if you're doing way too much, they're going to then be inclined to do way too much. And they're hearing way too much. So, don't listen to too much. Don't watch too much. Learn how to cut it off, and ask them to do the same. Put some parameters around that cell phone. Urge your teens to test the validity. This is what I did with my son. I said, listen, That's pretty, that's sensationalism. And so that's clickbait, and the kids know what that means. And so you can't get your you can't get your news from TikTok. So watch reputable newses, click on those links, fact find, look things up and wonder if that's true, and keep asking, other reputable news sources, is this true? And then you'll start finding out the answers. Okay? Okay. Let's get into some tips. And that was Megan Walls. Okay. Let's get into some tips. So, how to cope with news anxiety and take care of your mental health. Let me tell you before we get into that. News anxiety can cause physiological reactions. And so within your body, because you are thinking and protecting and overshooting and thinking and building anxiety, there are chemicals rising up in your body, and they're called stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline. It's rising up. And so that's overwhelming your physical body. So you can have headaches, tightness in your face, clenching your jaw. That's me. I clench my jaw when I've had too much. Okay, shoulders way up here, your heart palpitations and fluttering, muscles are clenching, sweating, shortness of breath, worrying can cause all that, and anxiety can cause physical tightness in the chest, feeling like that you're having cardiac arrest, actual panic attacks, because you're overwhelmed and overloaded with what the news is showing you. And so when that is going on, you need some relief. If you already have pre-existing diagnoses like anxiety, depression, like mood disorders, bipolar, and other disorders like schizophrenia and paranoid schizophrenia especially, this is going to exacerbate what is happening. The news will make it go over the top, and so your symptoms could get out of control. And who wants out of control DSM-5 mood disorder symptoms? Not me. No one's hand is up out there. So we have to be sure that we're taking care of our mind and our body, y'all. Okay? Promise that you're going to listen to some of these tips and really make sure that you're taking care of your mind and your body. It's the only mind that we're going to get. It's the only body you're going to get, and we have to take care of it and not have this news anxiety. Now, can we control the news? No, but we can control the intake of the news. So let's get at it, okay? So that we're not having physical diagnosis and condition like high blood pressure and ulcers and stress-induced type of medical diagnosis. So here we go. Number one. Okay, so do you really need to watch the news? That's my question to you. Do you really need to watch it? Ask yourself, do I need to watch it? How am I feeling today? Is it a high-stress week? Is it a high-stress day? Do I really need to watch the news? If the answer is no, I can catch up later because they're going to keep telling you over and over and over again what's happening. Then go on a news diet, okay? Limit your exposure to the media. Limit your social media. None of this scrolling at bedtime, y'all. I know y'all are doing it. I see you out there. All that scrolling before nighttime. Now, I'm not talking about watching some reels because that can make you laugh at night. I'm talking about reading the news. Even reputable news sources can cause a bunch of anxiety before you go to bed. And then waking up to it and scrolling? No. We got to limit it. So put some boundaries and limitations on news watching and listening and reading, okay? Unfollow any social media accounts that keep popping up all of the disastrous things that are happening. Get off of that. They're bombarding you. You know why? Because each click, they're making money with it. So they're making money with your anxiety. How's that feel? We don't want that, okay? So unfollow it. Let's take some advice from Kendrick Lamar and turn the TV off. Turn the TV off, right? Turn it off. Turn the TV off. Turn the radio off, okay? Turn that news feed off of your phone. Set limits. Turn it off, Okay. Um, Avoid people. So I'm talking about turning people off too. I know, especially in my line of work, in my profession, that people talk about the things that are going on because it really affects, as a social worker, the people that we serve. And it really affects us as we are, professors and teaching our students how to interact with the community. And as we interact with the community, it affects us and we feel it and we see it. So we can't always turn it off when we are in the marginalized population. We are of those people. But we can give ourselves a break from receiving the information. We have received it. We see the changes, we feel the changes, but we still can give ourselves a break and step away from it, then go back and deal with it. That really strengthens ourselves. But we might have to turn people off. And so you might have to get up from the lunchroom table. You might have to say, okay, let's talk about something else. If your friend is consistently and constantly talking about what's going on in the news and you've had enough, you can feel yourself. So pay attention to your body, y'all. We'll start feeling all of this. Okay, I can't talk about it anymore today. I've reached my threshold. The people that are your friends and your colleagues, your work buddies, they're going to understand and they're going to allow you to take that time. If they continue to talk about it, you can simply turn around and walk away. That bathroom excuse works in any kind of situation, anytime, any place. Let's do it. Okay? All right. So, talk to someone. Talk to someone that isn't gassing it up, pouring gas on your fire. You're heated and mad. They did this. I can't believe this happened. They cut that. They did that. That person's like, yeah, be angry, be mad. That they're not actually helping. They're helping you to feel worse. Okay? So talk to somebody that's going to be able to help ease some of that anxiety. Maybe not solve the problem because it's a problem that you can't solve in that moment, but they're able to say how you feel is valid and I'm here with you. I feel the same way. And then they allow you to transition into another conversation. That's the people you want to talk to. Okay? Practice self-care, y'all. Practice mindfulness. The Calm app, PTSD Coach app, Nature app. There's so many apps out there that will help you to manage the anxiety symptoms, manage depression symptoms. And with the PTSD Coach app, it has a little section where you can manage symptoms. The Calm app has all kind of guided meditation, nature sounds. These are the things that I like. So I'm just sharing the things that I like. I love nature sounds. Okay. Move. Okay. Exercise helps to burn off those stress hormones. So move your butt. Move that behind. Get out of that chair. Move around. If you're clicking through the TV, just get up and walk in place while you're clicking through the TV for a little bit. Take a walk around campus. Take a walk around your neighborhood. Take a walk around the track at your local high school. Things like that, just moving. Have a dance party in the living room. That's always fun. A dance party with your roommate. A dance party with your friends. A dance party with your children. That's me. Have that dance party. Move your behind and get that stress hormone out. Otherwise, it'll just be bouncing around like a ping pong game inside, okay? Eat clean. Eat those leafy vegetables. Stay away from all that fried food. Every now and again is good, but the high sugar, high carb, high fried foods and fats and all that cause you to be more anxious. And it's harder for you to kind of get that stress hormone out of your body. So stay away from those foods. Increase the healthy fruits and vegetables and lean meats and proteins if you don't eat meat. High protein, good proteins. Okay. Change how you see the news is a really good tip that I've learned and I'm sharing with you all. You don't have to watch the news. You can read it. You can go to USA Today. You can go to Huffington. You can, some of those reputable sites like Gov and EDU or ORG are examples of news that has been, they have vetted, their sources, and usually they're the right kind of reputable news. And so change it up. Maybe you don't need to listen to it on NPR or watch it on CNN. Maybe you need to actually read it. And that way a little bit or a lot of that sensationalizing is cut out when you're just reading it yourself. So maybe read the newspaper, bring it up on the computer, and then you can cut it off whenever you've had enough. Okay? This is a big one and a big challenge. Let go of what you can't control. You can't control the budget. You can't control rumors of war. You can't control violence a majority of the time. And so you have to let go of what you can't control. And a lot of folks I know leave it to their higher power, leave it to the universe, leave it to their God and say, I can't control this. I need you to control this. And so taking it out of your hands and putting it into hands of something more powerful and more knowing than you is always really helpful. Prayer and meditation and deep breathing and just being mindful and rooted, okay? And saying, I can't control that. And then there are things you can control. So do something about it if you can. Do something about it. That's always really helpful to say, I can do this. You know, I'm a social worker, y'all, so I'm always ready and equipped with a bunch of people, my social work friends, my students behind me. And let's say, hey, let's change things. I don't like that. Let's do something about it. Let's get on the phone. Let's talk to our senator and our congressman and congressperson, and let's bombard, you know, these places that have all kind of rule over us, whether it be, you know, the senator, the mayor, whoever it may be, and say, these are some things I'd like to change. Not always fighting, but saying, how can I be helpful in this situation? And then put on the gloves when you need to fight and make change that will help change things in your life, but, you know, the other folks around you help change their lives too. I hope these tips were really helpful. These are some tips that I use because I can become a news junkie and start listening and watching and feel my levels going up. And I know the same thing with the people around me, you know, because we're so attuned and we're just into what's happening, and we have to make sure that we do this or teach our students that and know this about this. But there are just some times that we need to take a news break and have a diet from the news and turn it off, or give ourselves breaks, not waking up immediately scrolling through the news, not going to bed looking at it, but knowing what's going on, keeping conversations short, and replenishing. When we are dumping out and listening and reading and all this news, and anxiety is going up, we have to have a way that we are filling our cup, filling our bucket, and we are feeling like we can continue to fight, continue to move on, continue to carry folks on our back, and fight the good fight. We can't do that unless we're replenished. So be sure that you are taking care of yourselves, mind, body, and soul. So holistically, make sure that you are being so good to yourself. Be careful. Be careful. That's self-care. Being careful about yourself, what you are taking in, but also what you are putting out. I hope this was helpful for y'all, Healing Overflow family. It's so good to talk to y'all. It's so good to see you. Keep healing. That's what you need to do. That's your number one responsibility. Keep healing so that your healing overflows onto everyone else. Keep sharing the podcast. Thank y'all so much again for sharing. I hear people come up to me like, I heard this podcast because my friend shared it with me. My therapist shared it with me. That means the world to me. That means so much. Thank y'all so much for listening and watching. Don't forget, write in. You can email me directly at toyaj.pitt.edu or click that Qualtrics link down there anonymously. Give me your Healing Overflow question, Ask a Therapist. And if I air it on my Ask a Therapist segment, you get a nice gift card. Just kind of treat yourself to a delicious beverage, coffee beverage or tea, anything that you love. All right. Keep healing so that your healing overflows onto everyone else. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.